Cathie Woods just said she thinks Tesla will win the robotaxi race and that it will be a winner takes most market. With the predicted size of the robotaxi industry being enormous, if she's right, Tesla could be on the cusp of something huge. Check out this clip from Cathie.
Talk about robotaxis. We said that with AI, it's going to be winner takes most. Is robotaxis winner takes all?
Winner take most again. I think in the US, for example, which we think will be the largest market. We don't think China will be the largest market because the cost to ride in a taxi there is 35 cents per mile, right? And in the US, the cost per mile for an Uber, minimum $2, and at surge time, $4 to $8. It's ridiculous. So it's going to be much more valuable in the United States. And in the United States, we have two players. Everyone else has failed. I know that Zoox with Amazon is trying to break in, but they've been working at it for a while. The two so far are Tesla and Waymo. Waymo commercialized way before Tesla in 2018 or 19. Tesla commercialized just this June in Austin, Texas. But now we're watching the race. And Tesla is moving very quickly. Waymo's trying to keep up. We think Tesla wins the race, mostly because it is vertically integrated from a manufacturing point of view, whereas Waymo is dependent on other auto manufacturers, and it's dependent on a hardware stack that is much more expensive. It has 23 sensors. So we've got LiDAR, radar, and then just plain computer vision. Tesla's relying only on 9 sensors, computer vision alone. And the philosophy there is, hey, how do we drive cars, human beings? With 2 sensors, our eyes, right? Okay, so Tesla has 9 and believes that a Tesla car will be 10 times safer. It's almost as safe as a human being right now, 10 times safer in the next few years.
This is the story of Tesla that I think most people that are not paying attention to the story have a hard time wrapping their heads around. Because intuitively, most people think that more sensors good, right? They equate, a machine that has LiDAR and radar as, and then, the public has been trained through the years to think, oh, LiDAR, this is alien technology. This is like something that has been, that was built years ago, which again, it is a groundbreaking technology where you can use basically light to decide where things are. But the problem is that when you're thinking about scaling these vehicles to where they should be to get to a point where there's cheap transportation everywhere for most people, and in addition to that, having it play nice with other sensors that see things differently, it's going to be much simpler, much easier, much more efficient, much more cost effective, and much more scalable to use only cameras than LiDAR. Why is that? To manufacture a camera, even if LiDAR gets to say $500 per unit or $200 per unit of LiDAR to produce, the cameras themselves, we already have a supply chain made for cameras where you can make literally hundreds of millions of cameras per year. Why? Because if you look at your cell phone, this one has 3. I don't even know why it has 3. It's like, why does it have 3? We have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to cameras. So the breakthrough here is figuring out how you use this. And I'm not saying Tesla uses this exact same camera in their car, but I'm hoping I'm driving the point here, is that we're using a thing that looks at the real world as a human would, and then what we're solving for is the brain. What we're solving for is what we see, what the car sees. How do we action against those things? And the thing that is hard to convey is that the work for your brain to do that is just as good, if not better, in a lot of situations than LiDAR. Just because LiDAR is a crazy technology doesn't make it better. And this very simple example here that we can all use is who is driving the cars now? All of us. Our process to get a car from point A to point B with us in the vehicle if we are paying attention and we're not on our phones and we're not drunk and we know how to drive, we use two eyes. We have a neck that allows us to go like this, to look left and right. We have a rear view mirror that helps us look behind us, right? And we got two side view mirrors to help us look to our sides. And then we have a brain that says, oh, a car is starting to encroach in my lane. I should probably go right, because if I don't go right, I'm going to hit it. And that's where safety comes from. It's not this like insane, like, oh, we have radar in our ears and that's why I was able to avoid that. It's like, no, you saw something and then your brain told you to do the action to prevent getting hit. And then you do that action and then you don't get hit. Okay? 50% of accidents and deaths in the United States, this statistic's probably not 100% accurate, but at least 100%, at least half of accidents and deaths that happen in the United States are directly correlated to distractions or some sort of under the influence thing where your brain is not working well. So if your brain is not working well, you're not going to do the right actions. It's not because your eyes or because of the sensors you were using to execute the action, it's because of your brain, right? And so now you have a formula where Tesla has figured out how to get the lowest cost possible sensor in a camera and hook it up to a brain that's going to action against what it sees just as good, if not better, than something with LiDAR. And that's the threshold here. That's the threshold. And then over time, as the brain gets better, as the processor to action against the photons going in the camera gets better, the driving gets better. It's not sensor dependent, it's AI dependent. And so what is AI dependent on? Data and training. And how do you train? With chips. So you just get more data and more chips and the same, it's essentially, and this is sort of a dumbed down version of it, but the relatively same sensor suite, you might increase the resolution of the cameras a little bit. Maybe you go from 5 megapixels to 10 megapixels or 20 megapixels. I mean, we got phones in China that have 1 trillion, I don't even know how many megapixels they have, but they're way higher fidelity than anything Tesla has in their cars. They're already in the supply chain, they're mass market. Those upgrades are nothing relative to what other companies like Waymo have to do to upgrade their radars, to upgrade their LiDARs, to upgrade their ultrasonics, to upgrade their cameras, and then get them to all play nice together, and then figure out a supply chain that can match the scale of a Tesla, where they're making 2 million cars per year, and Waymo is going to be hard limited, not just by the sensors, but actually getting the cars to play nice with them, because they don't build cars. They have to partner with somebody else to build them the cars. So they're supply limited on the sensor side, and they're supply limited on the vehicle side. And this is like, it's going to be, I think we're at the point now where I'm going to be blue in the face trying to describe this as much as I want. And maybe this video will actually help some people have that light bulb moment. But until Tesla gets those hundreds of thousands of robotaxis on the road that they've already built, this is another thing too, these cars already exist. They're amongst us, These Model Ys and these Model 3s with the latest version of FSD with hardware 4 driving around, and all the hardware 3s that are going to get upgraded to hardware 4 just with a chip, with a chip swap and some internal stuff. But the existing cars going to be upgraded, some of them to be able to do this. And then you have others that are already capable of doing this. All of a sudden, it's going to be a light switch. And these cars are going to perform better than humans on average by just using the same exact sensor suite that we would have used, which is vision. It just, instead of having 2 eyes, it has 9. 4 front facing, 2 side facing, 2 rear facing, and then 1 actually rear facing, okay? That's how it replicates the neck movement. Anyway, yeah, I mean, Cathie communicated it brilliantly. And hopefully my explanation helps people understand it at a more simple level, but it's like so obvious. And we'll see where it goes.
And it's going to be so much more efficient for travelers in terms of traffic.
If you cut the cost of something, we believe in the US, these are US numbers, the cost to drive a personally owned car is roughly 75 cents per mile. At scale, we think that cost for a robo-taxi will be 25 cents. So if you cut the cost of something by 1/3, you will get more of it. Will there be fewer cars on the road? Yes. There will be fewer auto sales because the capacity utilization of a robo-taxi will be 60%. Some people think 70%, whereas the capacity utilization of a personally owned vehicle is only 4 or 5%.
So I'm not so sure I agree with her sentiment that there's going to be less cars on the road, because what's going to happen here is when you're dropping the average cost per mile of a vehicle from 75 cents to 25 cents. And let's walk through how she gets to the 25 cents, because I've done the math on my end as well. So the way ARC has arrived to the 25 cents largely, which I think closely aligns with my model, is that they're assuming that the insurance costs are going to be at or less than the current price that an average safe driver would pay in the United States right now. It's just going to be spread across way more miles because the utilization of the robotaxi is going to be significantly higher because it's going to do work while you are sleeping. Let's say you own the car. It's going to be out there doing work for you. So the utilization of those miles of that vehicle becomes much higher, but the, say, net monthly cost of insurance for that vehicle that's significantly safer than a human, it's going to be about the same. It's just going to be spread across more miles. So you get a massive cost decrease there. And then with the Cybercab, Tesla's new platform, it's going to reduce not just the cost of the vehicle itself, but the running costs as well. What is it going to reduce? The cost for charging, which is going to be a few cents on the dollar. It's going to change the math around maintenance. It's going to remove those as well by multiple cents per mile. Let's say you don't have to, it's more reliable. It's going to run a lot slower. Let's say the motors are not going to be nearly as high performant, so you're not going to put as much strain on the vehicle. You're gonna get to a point where a car like this is probably going to be able to operate for hundreds of thousands of miles before any sort of maintenance has to be done. So that's the thought process there. So maintenance costs plummet. But the most important variable here is the ratio of teleoperators to robotaxis. And you achieve this by having a really, really, really smart AI system to the point where the number of people you need to shepherd or monitor these vehicles plummets because these cars are just not getting into trouble. And the cars don't get into trouble by becoming what Elon Musk has been saying now with V14, sentient. And what sentient means is that the vehicle knows how to perform in every situation. And if the car can do that, then you need less people looking after it. And that's a direct function of the AI brain. And so as the AI brain gets better, you need less supervision. And as you need less supervision, your cost of teleoperation plummets. And that's your biggest cost variable in this robotaxi thing. If you have a 1-to-1 ratio of teleoperator to robotaxi, you need one person to watch a robotaxi for every robotaxi on the road. It's going to be more expensive than an Uber driver because that person at headquarters is probably getting paid not only their salary, but they're getting paid health insurance. They're getting paid some sort of stock option bonus. They have PTO. They have training. There's probably going to be $100,000 a year for that person to just oversee that one robotaxi. But if that one person is responsible for 100 robotaxis, the cost of supervision plummets to like 2 to 3 cents per mile. And so all those things together, and then on top of that is cleaning, right? And cleaning, let's say it's even $1,000 a month. When you spread it out across, say, 15, 20,000 miles or even 10,000 miles per month, because these things are going to be driving all the time, your cost per mile of cleaning is going to be like not that much, whatever, 5 cents, 8 cents, whatever that number is. It's not even going to be nearly that much. So that net cost of 25 cents per mile is a function of a really, really smart AI brain mostly, which helps the insurance cost from a safety perspective, but more importantly, doesn't require Tesla to have nearly as many people overseeing the entire fleet. And that's how Tesla gets to that low cost per mile. And so when you're thinking about the size of the fleet, when you get a car that costs that little to operate, it's not going to be a linear total addressable market increase when you're dropping the cost per mile from 75 cents to 25 cents. It's going to be exponential because most people, the huge majority of humans, don't live on the upper socioeconomic ladders. They live in the bottom, like the bottom 90% of the socioeconomic ladder. So when you're dropping the price by 2/3, essentially, you're not getting 2 times more people to enter it. You're getting like 10 times more people to enter it, or potentially even 20 times. And then you think about the different business use cases that are opened up by having such low cost per mile transportation available. The amount of doors that this opens up for things to come to you, or for you to go to things that initially would have had friction. Like the 2 examples that I love to use for this is, think about how public events and like sporting events and all these things, how much more demand there's going to be for these things when getting to the place is going to be essentially frictionless. Well, what do I mean by this? You don't have to get in a car. You don't have to pay an unbelievable amount for an Uber to charge you crazy surge rates to get to the event. And then if you drive yourself, you don't have to find parking. You don't have to fight through the traffic to get into the event. You don't have to walk all the way to the venue. Then you don't have to be mindful of, oh, I had too much to drink. Oh, I shouldn't be eating this. Oh, I shouldn't be drinking that. Oh, I'm kind of tired. Then you got to navigate all the way back to the parking lot. Then you got to wait half an hour to an hour in the freaking parking lot. Then you got to come out of the event and go through traffic. And then you got to drive back home exhausted, dog tired. And then you got to unpack your car if you're, like, say, tailgating or something like that, right? With a self-driving car, the surge pricing is going to be basically gone, because the amount of cars you can put into operation is going to be way higher, because the cost is going to be lower, and the cost per mile is going to allow you to get to the event for a fraction that it would cost an Uber, and then your time is back. So you don't, and then you can do whatever you want. You can drink, you can party, you can do whatever you want to get to the event and back, right? And you can sleep on the way back if you wanted to. So the amount of doors that opens up, and then for the businesses to come to you when you're at 25 cents per mile or even less potentially, you're going to start getting form factors of these vehicles that are going to allow businesses to come to you. So the one hair salon example I like to think through, now you have a thing where you can have like that van, that robo van, you can stick a hair salon in there, somebody can operate their business from there. And instead of people coming to your hair salon that might be 50 miles away or whatever to get a really nice premium haircut, that thing now comes to you. And then it parks in your driveway or on the street, and then you go into this magical place in this robo van. You'll get your hair done, amazing. Maybe you'll pay a little extra for the convenience of that thing coming to you, but it just becomes a whole ecosystem of businesses that can come to you. And so the demand for that's going to be unbelievable, right? So it's going to be interesting watching how this thing morphs over time. But my gut tells me we're actually going to have more cars, not less cars. Maybe for like the transition period, we'll have less cars, because there's not going to be as many EVs, or specifically Tesla's robo-taxis being manufactured versus gas cars. So we'll go through, like, say, this valley of death that we've been talking about in the Tesla community for freaking a decade plus. But after that, forget it. The amount of demand for these types of transportation systems is going to be nuts.
Okay, so Faza, my first question for you actually kind of lines up with what you were just mentioning. I just looked up what the global fleet size is of light vehicles, and it came in at 1.8 billion. So whether that stat's right or wrong, you're predicting long-term more light vehicles on Earth than that. One of Cathie's key points at the beginning was that the robo-taxi market is a winner takes most and not a winner takes all. Now, when I think about her thoughts there, my assumption is the market is just so ginormous. When you include human transportation and then when you include logistics, it's going to take decades just to build out that infrastructure. So that leaves a huge amount of opportunities. So firstly, do you believe her that it's a winner take most or winner takes all, or what are your thoughts on that? And then if it's not a winner takes all, like let's say Tesla is the winner takes all, where do the other opportunities lie in that market?
So I think the interesting thing about a driverless future is that the amount of customizability for these transportation systems is going to be off the charts awesome. And whenever so think through that, right? So if it's very, very, very cheap to get a giant box to go from point A to point B, the inside of that giant box becomes a value proposition. So some of them could be custom. So let me sort of crystallize this. Some of those boxes, like think of cars in the future as boxes, not like literally boxes, but think of them as these like rooms on wheels that cost very little to move from one place to another. The inside of that room now becomes the business. It's a sleeper for long distance travel. It's a workspace. If you want to, like, say you live in Denver and you want to like drive to and from Breckenridge or something, and you want to get some work done in a very scenic thing. Maybe this thing can just have glass, whatever, everywhere, and you just watch the beautiful Rockies as this workspace is tailor-made for you to get work done, right? You do that salon example, a party bus. You have all these different form factors. And so the opportunity becomes for different companies and businesses to either make their own fleet or purchase the vehicle, this sort of box thing, from a supplier, i.e. Tesla potentially long term, and then convert this car model into something much closer to the airline model, where you have one or two or three players that supply the blank canvas, which is going to be the essentially the robotaxi in whatever shape or form. And then the company that runs that specific fleet, let's say a Delta or a Southwest, or a Virgin, they customize the inside to whatever they think their clients would like, or whatever market they want to enter with that value proposition. And then where Tesla can be ginormous is that if you want to, say, get a Delta or the Delta equivalent offering of a robotaxi, the only place to get that is on the robotaxi network. And you go on the robotaxi network, and then you get all these different offerings of customized experiences or whatever value propositions for this thing. And then so the question becomes, how many Teslas will there be supplying the boxes? And maybe Tesla does their own too. Maybe Tesla just owns we'll just do Cybercab, and then y'all can figure out the van. Y'all can figure that out. Like, we'll give you a blank canvas. Y'all can figure it out, right? Which is, my gut tells me that's what's going to happen. My gut tells me that the RoboVan is going to be a supplied box to robotaxi fleet owners that then decide, as regulation catches up, how they want to customize the interior of that box. And so Tesla wins there. Then the question becomes, what other companies can create that same exact sort of experience or ecosystem where you would have to download their app to access their offerings? So if somebody can compete there from a scale perspective and an AI perspective and a safety perspective and a manufacturing perspective, great. And then the other winners are going to be the companies that are going to partner with each one of these suppliers that says, okay, like the Delta equivalent of the robot, let's say Farzad's vehicles, whatever. Come up with a better name. I'm going to choose to go with Tesla because maybe Tesla gives me the better terms. Maybe I like their ecosystem better. They have a lot more people on their app, maybe versus everybody else. And then I'll partner with them. I'll buy 10 RoboVans from them. They'll give me a bulk deal. And then on the other side, I'll have a process to outfit these vans. And so I'm going to win. But the question, the thing becomes, the winners in that ecosystem will be dictated by the different types of offerings you can do inside of that box. And that's primarily driven by customer demand. And so the early ones are going to be things like, commuter vans, or go to commuter spaces, weekend spaces. Maybe RVing becomes gigantic, and like doing cross-country trips becomes much more tolerable and palatable because you don't even have to drive in this super comfortable box that takes you from point A to point B. So I think many people can win, but from a supplier perspective, it's hard to see anybody winning more than Tesla. And so the very long answer to your question is, I think Tesla is going to be a winner takes most, but because there's going to be so much types of customization that can be done with a movable room, that leaves the door wide open for players to come in and start nibbling at the, say, top 20% of, say, like ultra luxurious types of offerings, right? Maybe Bentley could come out with their own version of a RoboVan, or they'll use the skeleton from Tesla, and then they'll outfit that sucker. You'll have plush everything. You have an Alcantara fucking floor. I don't know. Just come up with something. You'll have gold door handles. Anyway, there's just so much you can do here. It's unbelievable, and that's where we're going. It's obviously where we're going. When the cost per mile is going to be a third of what it costs right now to own your own car, how could it not go this way? It has to go this way.
I think to add to that though as well, it's like if Bentley's doing a car like that, what are the chances that it's running on Tesla's FSD? Like, I think that's not a bad chance. And then that winner takes most may creep towards a winner takes all. But I think lots of Tesla bulls, yourself, myself, think Tesla's going to take the lion's share of this market.
Can I clarify that a little bit?
Go for it.
So they're going to take, let's say, at least 51% of the total miles, but they're going to capture 80% plus of the profits, at least. So
then, as level-headed investors, which we've got to try and be, which we are all the time, aren't we, Farzad?
Sure, of course.
What's the biggest vulnerabilities to Tesla that they don't actually execute on this? Like, what are the chances that they don't execute on this, or what could go wrong so that they don't execute on this? Because we do think that everything is set up. It's maybe just a case of them nailing FSD, and maybe V14 is the one. Like, what are the vulnerabilities here?
I mean, the vulnerabilities are, I think, quite obvious. I think if something happens to Elon Musk, the long-term trajectory of the execution of this is at risk. I think they're at the point now where they've done enough to get this thing to where it needs to be. Like this is unstoppable momentum for FSD specifically. The bot probably suffers from it. If something were to happen to Elon, the bot is going to suffer a lot more than the robotaxi FSD. The other risk factor is, FSD starts, the one version has a glitch or somebody hacks into it and it just kills 100 people. Just one, they start ramming themselves into trucks or whatever. And it just becomes a gigantic national security issue. And then, Tesla is sort of hit over the head multiple times, deservedly so, if something like that were to happen, right? They would deserve that type of treatment. But I am on the camp of the technology appears quite obviously to be at a point and on a trajectory where the economic forcing function of adoption is literally undeniable. It would be impossible to say, I don't want to adopt the thing that costs 1/3 of what it would otherwise, and I get a better experience, and I get a private cabin, and it's comfortable, and it's being manufactured in millions of units per year, so my cost of ownership is low. Like, there's so many and it's safer than me driving. There's so many pros to this technology that the non-adoption would be the most shocking outcome in the history of capitalism, of markets, and of society, where at mass people decide not to adopt the lowest cost and best option. When is the last time that's happened?
Well, I've got one word for you: China. And actually, I want to move over to China because Cathie did mention China briefly. She said that she thinks robotaxis will be enormous and the biggest market will be US, but she didn't have as high level of conviction in regards to China. Now, I want to unpack this because there's a few different angles to take it. Firstly, the price incentive in China is lower because the current cost per mile in China is already so low. I can't remember the numbers you said, but it was already pence on the dollar.
And that's because the cost, number one, they make a ton of really cheap cars.
Yep.
And then number two is the cost of labor is significantly cheaper in China than it is in the US.
Exactly. Then a few other things at play here might be, would China, because that cost incentive isn't as big, is there going to be as much of a forcing function for Tesla to then be a mass adopted overnight because it's not as big of a cost savings? Is there then a chance that China would actually rather support their local players to scale and maybe slow down Tesla? Or on the flip side, would China maybe want Tesla to do what they did with Tesla bringing EV manufacturing to China, which is actually, Tesla, come over here, deploy your robotaxi network, show us the ropes. And then a final thought on that is China actually going to get in the way of this at all? Are they going to be a little bit more free market here because of the economic boom which will happen with autonomous vehicles becoming mass scale in your local regions? So a few things to unpack there, Farzad.
I think all of those are very brilliant observations. The way I think about it is China is a tech forward country, and Tesla is already very successful in that country. And Elon is the only CEO on the planet, maybe outside of Tim Cook, that is able to And Tim Cook kind of gave away America a little bit, but that's for a different podcast. And maybe Elon's doing the same a little bit. Actually, no, because the pace of innovation with Tesla is outpacing. Yeah. Anyway, that's a topic for a different conversation. Elon is one of the very few people on the planet that can set up a relationship with the Chinese government that's beneficial for the company versus as well as the Chinese government. The playbook that China has employed for as long as we've seen them grow the way they have is that they partner with American companies to bring them on, they onshore them, they learn from them, like you said, and then after a little while, once they feel comfortable with their learnings, they spool up their own industry using those learnings, and then they will try their hardest to outcompete you away. And they'll be like, thank you very much for the knowledge. Look, now we do it better than you. And so that's why the pace of improvement and the pace of innovation is so unbelievably important for China. It's going to be in China's best interest to let Tesla build the path for them for very high scale autonomous driving. Because even though, let's say, the cost differential between a robotaxi and somebody driving the car in China is not going to be as great, okay? The Tesla robotaxi, number one, China is still 1.4 billion people. So if they're capturing, let's say Tesla has market share in the United States of, say, 50%. In China, if Tesla's market share was 1/4 to 1/5 of the market share in the US, it would be the same net number they would have in the United States. So just think about, so the volume of people is so high that even if their market share is wrecked compared to the US, they would still essentially double their business. So just because they're not going to be top market share player in China doesn't make it bad. Now, from a national security perspective, and I've been talking about this in the United States too, it's in the country's best interest, from my perspective, to not allow international companies, especially those that are not directly aligned with you in some sort of partnership, like NATO as an example. Like NATO allies like to play together very well because they all have the same guiding principles. It's the West, basically, right? China is an adversary, it's a competitor. They have a different way of living, they have a different thought process around government, they have different values, different culture. It's just a different, not better or worse, it's just different. But they are adversaries, and they would benefit from us losing capability and them gaining capability, right? And artificial intelligence systems are going to be unbelievably powerful, not in just dominating market share in countries, but also becoming a huge industrial pillar for those countries. And in addition to that, they could also act as quasi-surveillance type things. And so China must be thinking to themselves, how many Tesla vehicles do I really want on my roads that can capture all the data? And how do I know that Elon's not sending some of that in the back end back to the United States, right? How do I know that these Tesla vehicles are not some sort of spy vehicles on all my roads that can see everything, right? In the United States, we got to think about it very similarly. And so if you extrapolate this to human or robots, it's like, okay, do we really want Chinese human or robots all over the place here? No, I don't want a Chinese human or robot in my house. That's crazy. With my child, I'm sure it's fine, but just in the off chance that it's not, I'm not going to take that risk. I'm just going to buy American. It's important enough for me from a national security perspective. Okay, so then China's going to be dealing with the same thing. But the thing that they're by default, because of who China is going to have to adopt this technology up to a certain point, and then it's up to them if they want to say, okay, let's chill with you and we're going to raise up our industry, right? Or they'll be like, okay, you know what? We trust you full board, just go. And then we'll just be part of this one world order. We're all going to play nice, and we'll just have free open borders and everybody can trade with each other. And we're not going to worry about nearly as much about national security because, we trust you. So these are all fascinating variables. I think the core lesson here is that everybody wins. I think the TAM is just so insanely large for robotaxi that even if China wasn't a gangbusters market, Tesla has already proved that there's plenty of demand for their vehicles. And then on top of that, because their technology is going to be the best, like we didn't even talk about that. Tesla's ADAS, their FSD in China is the best performing self-driving feature on any car, including the Chinese ones. Without the data that the Tesla has available to them everywhere else. That system is so good at compressing down the data it has gotten, the limited one it has gotten in China, which they did through sourcing YouTube videos. That system is better than anything. So that tells you just how far advanced Tesla is. And China's going to benefit from that, obviously, over time. They'll learn from that and make their systems better. So I think Tesla's just set up to win so much. And it's going to be fantastic for them.
If they were sourcing YouTube videos, I hope they filtered your ones out.
I hope so too, because that would be a national security issue.
But just to bring it back once again, if China doesn't allow the adoption of Tesla, how many years behind does that then put them? And well, exactly. you said China is in competition with America. And we are looking to see who else could maybe be as competitive with Tesla globally. And it just doesn't look like anyone else has the scale. So if China says no to Tesla, how many years behind are they going to be?
Well, China's going to be much more willing to adopt the technology that makes sense. And so, like, is it out of the question that BYD won't license FSD? I think there's a good chance that BYD is going to license FSD. I think it's much higher than people give them credit for. I think the Chinese business community seems a lot more pragmatic than the United States business community, especially the legacy business community. I think the legacy business community in the US is very it's like a Mean Girls club. It's like very niche-y, and like they would just work with lobbyists to get more instead of like coming together for a common goal. Like it's just kind of like and then the reasons why they decide to stay together and the decisions they make, they're not really centered around making a better product, but making more money for the people that have invested in the company. It's like a very ass backwards way of operation. Whereas Elon operates in a much different way. He very much operates from the standpoint of, if you make the best product, the money will come. Whereas most companies, I feel like the legacy companies in the United States are like, how do we maximize shareholder value? You know, Steve Jurvetson talk about this on my podcast. It's like, you know, Elon companies benefit tremendously from having these gigantic goals, you know, like sustainable abundance now Tesla has. Most other companies is like, we're here to maximize shareholder value. It's like, what does that even mean? Just make more money for the people that have put money into your company. How do you do that? Oh my God, we should hire these consultants to come in. You know, oh my God, how can I squeeze 0.4 margin from this process we've had in place for 20 years? Oh, we should delete this Excel spreadsheet and instead put it in SAP. That's going to be so much better. Okay, how much is SAP? $10 million. Let's do it. That's how most fucking corporate America works, bro. It sucks. And so, you know, like the Chinese are very different. The Chinese are, I think they're much more focused on like, okay, what does the best possible product look like? And you can see it, dude. The most automakers in China are way better than most automakers in America. Like, and most automakers in America, there's like 3. You know, technically 4. With Stellantis, but they're much more, you know, they're much more European than American. So, which is funny because they make pickup trucks, and pickup trucks are very American. Anyway, you see where I'm going with this. I think China's going to be very well set up, but I think they're very pragmatic. And if they think that they're going to be better positioned licensing Tesla's technology versus making their own, they will do that. And if they think they're going to get an advantage, and then don't underestimate the negotiations that Trump and Xi are doing right now, and how Tesla can play into that. Like, you know, part of me thinks is like, okay, is there a forcing function? I've been told I love using the word forcing function. By the way, farza.fm/merch. There's a forcing function t-shirt on the website. Go check it out. I'm gonna start wearing mine here soon. Is there a forcing function for Trump and Xi to come to some sort of conclusion or negotiate a deal that says, we are going to allow our crown jewel industries to actually be able to sell them against each other, or like, you know, open up the markets. So what's the biggest one in the United States that has been closed down recently? It's EVs from China. essentially through the massive tariffs that the Biden administration put through. And the reason why they did that was specifically because Legacy Auto was probably lobbying and saying, if you let these guys in, we're screwed. And now you're seeing, now that they removed the EV tax credit, all these EV legacy companies are going, we just, there's no demand for EVs. There's no demand, you guys. We're going to have to shut it down. I made a video about this yesterday, right? EVs are collapsing. We're going to have to shut it down, you guys. It's just not going to work. We're just so sorry. Just nobody's buying them. Really sorry, right? If Trump is like, you know what? I want to play nice with Xi. I want to be able to sell them all my NVIDIA chips. I want to be able to sell them humanoid robots. I want to be able to sell them Tesla vehicles. I want to be able to sell them AI stuff. Oh, they want to sell their EVs in America? All right, let's go. Let them. You think Mary Barra is going to be happy about that? You think Jim Farley is going to be happy about that? Elon's probably going to be like, finally, we get some fucking competition. Finally, I can get a fire lit under these in Fremont to get some shit done. Look at the Chinese are literally the mission gets even better. The Chinese are invading our borders, you guys. We got to make the best car. This is why having the right leader is so important. This is why having the right, because then you can capture that dynamic, and then Elon's going to be like, there's an invasion. We got to get better, right? I mean, I'm not saying he's going to actually say that, but he's going to say it in his Elon way. Jim Farley and Mary Barra are going to call up whoever they can in the Trump administration and be like, I can't believe you did this. No, you got to undo, just do something. You got to put some sort of like tax on them, just some sort of like, we can't compete with these guys. We can't compete with them. Instead of being like, for the last 10 years, they should have set themselves up to compete. And what's going to happen to them if that happens? They are done. They are dunzo ponzo, right? Super dunzo ponzo. And then what the crazy thing is in the United States, if you think about an analogy in a different industry, the phones that every American uses in the United States are built in China. Mostly. A lot of them are also built in Korea, right? Because of Samsung. So, bro,